I'd like to just start from the beginning. When you first got that memo, and any knowledge you had prior to that memo of who these people were and how you got the job itself.
Okay. All right. We're going to start. It was February of 1964. I was working midnights. I was a sergeant on the Miami Beach Police Department. Mother just went off to work, and it was a busy night, and I was tired, and I just got into a real deep sleep, which was about 9:30 in the morning, and I was banging on the door. And I ran to the door, and I was really upset. And I remember opening the door, and I went, "God damn it, this better be good." And because knowing me, I wake up very sweet in the morning. And it was a North Miami Beach policeman. And he said, "Sergeant, take it easy. You have to call your department. Captain Stewart is trying to reach you, and you apparently have the phone off the hook," which I did. So I said, "Okay," and I went back in, and I called the office, and I talked to Captain Stewart, and I says, "I'm sorry, I'm a little groggy, but I just woke up. I just got to sleep." He says, "I know all about that." He says, "But we just assigned you to take care of the Beatles. They're coming into Miami Beach, and they're sponsored by Ed Sullivan." And I said, "What in the hell is the Beatles?" I said, "What are you, Captain Stewart, what do I got to do with Beatles?" He says, "It's a rock group." And I said, "We never had a rock group on Miami Beach. We never had anything like that. At that time in '64, we were a very small police department." So he said, "Well, your orders..."
How small was the Miami Beach Police Department?
I think top, maybe we had 50, 60 men, 70 men tops.
Okay.
So he said, "Get yourself cleaned up, wake up, and be at the Deauville Hotel and meet," I believe he said, Captain Webb at the hotel. So I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, what do I do?" He says, "You'll get your instruction." So I took a shower, and I woke up a little bit, and I ran up to the barber shop and got a haircut, and put on all nice clean clothes and had something to eat. Pardon me. And I went over to the Deauville, and I saw Captain Webb, and he handed me this letter from Captain Stewart, and it said that the Beatles will be here.
This was the memo from the police department?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And that I'm in charge of security, and that I'll be working for the hotel as well as the city, and it's the first time we ever had anything like this. We had TV shows in town before, Jackie Gleason and so forth. Arthur Godfrey. But we never had, apparently, a one act like this. Now, many times you ask me, "Son, why you think I was picked for this?" And the only thing I could think of is, year after year, we used to have a police and fire charity show for a pension, for our widow's pension plan. And in the old days, we had every big nightclub entertainer that was in town would show up and perform, and we usually had it at the convention hall or at the dog track, and we raised a lot of money. And at that time, I was always in charge of transportation, getting them to and fro, their security.
Oh, then what
And
about
so forth.
John Kennedy? Didn't you have to?
Oh, that's after.
Oh, okay.
But this was the reason I think they picked me for this assignment.
Okay, then we got the
we got
machine.
So I saw Captain Webb, and the instructions were basically that these boys would arrive at a certain, I think it was Thursday, and they were going to stay for the Sullivan show was Sunday, and they were leaving. And that the Deauville Hotel would be responsible for the payment, and that the hotel would pay us, and the city would pay us.
Right. So the schedule would be that they would arrive, stay a day, then 1 day of rehearsal, and then the show itself on Sunday.
Right.
Yeah.
And they were bringing. I had no idea what they were bringing with them, and I had no idea other than the fact they were going to land at the airport. And the conversation I had with Webb, I said, "Well, what do they do?" He says they're a group, and he says just make sure nothing happens to them and take care of them, and the hotel doesn't want any damage to the hotel.
Did you have any prior knowledge that they were already on Ed Sullivan?
No.
Now, I mean, as you remember now, wasn't it just 2 weeks before, or?
Yeah, I found out that they were on Sullivan, and they were such a hit that he invited them back to Miami Beach.
And as you recall, there was no knowledge in the community of that they were on Ed Sullivan, or what did?
No, I really didn't pay that much attention because I was working midnight, so I didn't really care.
Oh, I see.
It's after I got to the hotel, and the word got out in the papers that the Beatles were coming to the Deauville. I figure, going back to the experiences of the convention hall with fights and wrestling and the circus and all these things that I was always in charge of, I figure, well, I'll use 4 men. You know.
Yeah.
So
that was your original assessment, that you need 4 men.
That's all.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you use 2 men for a fight, or for a championship fight, you use 10 men. I figure 4 and.
And how did you foresee delegating their assignments?
Well, I figure I picked my men. I picked 4 men in my mind. That 2 would be with me, and 2 I would use for the floor wherever they stayed. 1 on each end.
Oh, at the hotel.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, I figure that's enough. When I went to the hotel and I talked to the manager, and he said, you know, buddy, he says, you know, I know him, I forget his name now, but I know the manager of the restaurant downstairs, and he says, your men, you know, can eat here and there's no problem in the food and this and this. He said, we just don't want any damage to the hotel and this and that. And I said, you know, what are we talking about here? What do you? He says, well, the first inkling I had was that they apparently in New York, when they landed in New York in LaGuardia, they had thousands of people, and I said, well, who are these kids? Where the hell do they come from? What do they do? And I said, how many men did they use in New York? And the hotel up there, you know, how did they handle this? And the hotel manager said, well, they had hundreds of police and this and that. I said, well, you haven't got hundreds of police here. You haven't got hundreds of police in the whole city. So I said, well, we'll work it by ear. So I went downstairs and I met with a couple of my friends, with Sergeant Ty and a few of the other guys, and Sandy Cohen was a lieutenant. And I said, look, we'll have the walkie-talkie, we'll work together, and if I need men, just send off everybody that wants to work. And those days we got big money, $3 an hour. And I'll keep abreast. I said, now you, as far as crowd control, if there's any crowd control, you guys will have to handle that out here. I will take the interior. I said, so they said, how many men you got? I said, I'm going to start off with 4. That changed. That changed very rapidly.
Yeah.
Okay, the time came and they pulled up in the limo, and I see these kids come out with.
Oh, so you didn't go to the airport?
Oh no, they were brought over from Miami.
Oh, so this was Miami police.
Brought them into the hotel.
How many police did Miami have for this transfer?
I think it all happened so fast. They pulled up to the ramp.
Yeah.
And I had one of my men hold an elevator.
Yeah.
And the rest of the other 3 and myself, we opened the door, and I said, one man got out, and he introduced. He says, "Are you in charge?" And I said, "Yes." He says, "I'm Brian Somerville."
Somerville. Yeah.
I said, "Okay, just follow me and don't stop." I said, "I have no idea." And meanwhile, the hotel lobby started to pack, and there was.
But nothing outside. Just
there was children outside.
Yeah.
But not enough that was a problem.
Okay.
Maybe 25, like that. So I said, just follow me. And we ran in and we held an elevator, and they told me the floor, I forgot, 7th, whatever it was. And we got in, and in the elevator was John Lemon and Cynthia, his wife, and Paul and Ringo and George, myself, the policeman, and I forget who else.
Were you introduced or anything, or is it just follow me, get right into the elevator?
I didn't, none of that till we got up, and I said.
Now, is this at nighttime?
This was in the afternoon. This was about 1 o'clock.
Okay.
So they had one of the assistant managers from the hotel had the keys.
I got you.
And he opened the rooms, and it was like 3 rooms connecting. Was Paul and Ringo went in one.
So they had to share a room.
George, yeah, and then
John and
then the next there was a little hallway and then there was John and Cynthia were there, and after the bags were coming up and they were put away and this and this, I took one man and I put him down by the exit. I took one by the elevator and one by the other exit, and myself and I said to this Brian Somerville, I said, now I think we got to lay down some ground rules. I says, and I'd like to meet with the fellas in here and whoever else. He says, well, the manager, Mr. Epstein, will be in, and he says, and I'm in charge. And then there was another fella, was their roadman also, a young kid, that nice boy. He was there. So
a British guy?
Yeah. Yeah. So they came into George's room. And we introduced ourselves and we're joking around, and I said, you guys are gonna take care of you like a baby, because I don't want nothing to happen. Because if anything happens to you, I'll be working midnights till I'm 100 years old, And I said, now let's get in a serious vein. I said, I really don't know what you do, and I'm sure you do it well, And but there has to be ground rules, and I set them. And we have to understand this now, that if you don't want to abide by them, and if you don't want to listen to me, then we'll get someone else. Because I'm going to be like your father. I'm going to be like your older brother and your mother and everything else rolled in on. You don't do anything. You don't go anywhere unless I tell you. And that way, I'm protecting you. I'm going to see that Mr. Sullivan's organization doesn't get embarrassed, and the government doesn't get embarrassed, and the city doesn't get embarrassed. And I said, if you can go along with that, and mean it, fine. And I said, Somerville, I said, you and I have to work very tight. You have to tell me when they have to be, and I'll get them there. How I get them there is none of your business. I don't want you, I don't want the hotel, nobody in this hotel, because they got blabbermouths. But I will make sure that there's not a hair will be harmed. Now, how the hell am I going to do this? I've never handled a group before. I handled fighters, wrestlers. But I figured if they listen, and we had good policemen and hand-picked guys that I knew, shouldn't be any problem. So they said fine. They are here to have a good time, and they went out on the balcony, and there were already kids downstairs and writing and screaming.
Oh, so this is already Thursday afternoon?
Yeah,
They're already down there. Yeah.
They were writing hello or welcome Beatles and
Right.
all this shit, and I knew then.
What floor were you on?
I don't know. You know, I really don't know. I don't know if it's the 7th floor or whatever.
Yeah.
But then
I mean, was this the point? Wasn't there a story like they were throwing their shoes up and the Beatles were autographing them? And
no, you can't throw them up. They're like 7 floors up.
7 floors? Okay, go ahead.
7, 8, something like that.
Okay.
Now,
No, you want to watch your show.
that's Jay.
Okay, go ahead.
Uh,
All right, so they're out on the balcony.
So they're out on the balcony, and now they want to go swimming.
You told me you want to watch your
So,
show.
that's Jay.
You said you want to watch your show.
She's supposed to be sick.
Okay.
Anyhow,
All right, so they wanted to go
Uh,
swimming in the ocean or in the pool?
well, they wanted to go in the ocean, and I said, no. I said, I can control you better in the pool than in the ocean. Because when you go into the ocean, you're on a beach. And when you're on the beach, you can't stop people walking up and down.
Right.
But in the pool, it's only the people supposedly living there, and I figure I had better control. Remember, I had 4 men
Right.
at that point in time. So I said, okay, why don't you unpack, and
How much luggage did they have?
I guess several suitcases a piece.
Oh, yeah?
And
You know, because I saw on this video I saw, you know, there was all these gifts that they ultimately ended up giving you because they had like one suitcase. They couldn't even pack the damn thing.
what happened was they were hungry,
Yeah.
and I said, okay. They wanted something to eat, and that's the first time we started with this grilled cheese sandwich.
Oh, that's right.
And they said, what is that? And I said, well, it's cheese and bread and butter, and you know, it comes with a pickle, and I think it's pretty fast, and you can get served. And they said, well, let's try it. And then they went crazy over it.
So you took them downstairs to the cafeteria?
No,
or
everything
you-
was
room service.
Everything was room service.
Okay.
Everything. Now, you couldn't. See, you lose control.
Sure, sure.
When you start taking it where they can be grabbed,
Yeah.
then you lose control. When I control it, I order it, and this and that. Now, we go down to the pool, and they're swimming around. And the funny thing is, I was amazed. We went into a cabana, and I hung out in the cabana with the other policemen. And I said, Jesus, if anybody starts to really, you know, we had lounges and stuff. I said, if anybody starts to come by, just tell them nice. The fellas are resting.
Right.
But other than several of the children,
But I mean, now at this time though, you also always have an entourage of photographers at all?
no.
Not yet.
Not yet. No. There was one or two, I think, from the local papers.
Uh-huh.
A couple of guys that I knew
Uh-huh.
from other, you know, from being around. They came and they just stood, let them stay on the side and click.
Yeah.
But I was very nervous because I didn't know who these guys are, but the way they were being handled and talked about, some sort of celebrity status, I knew, you know.
Yeah.
All right, they were swimming in a pool, and they came out and they laid on the lounge, and I told them, I said, now, you got to be cool with this, the sun. I said, it'll burn you up. They were all like milk.
Yeah.
You know, oh, they love it. I said, yeah, but...
Was this the first time they've ever been in, out of Europe, or?
Well, I don't know about that, but I don't know this is the first time I've ever been in the south of what
Or
our
something
type
with a kind of sun.
Our sun is a lot different than I'm sure other parts of the world or the
Yeah.
country, because it has that iodine content in the air and burn the hell out of you, as you know. So anyhow, we got them upstairs, and they washed up, and there was a woman named Ruth Regina who was going to be hired by CBS to do their hair.
Oh, the makeup artist.
Right.
I worked with her.
Right.
Yeah.
So Ruth Regina came. She was in the building. I called her and I said, "How are we going to dry these heads?" I said, "Look at the hair on these guys." You know. So she had portable hair dryers, and they came out and they took their. I said, "You got to take showers." What do you mean? We just got out of the water. I said, "You got to take a shower, and you got to wash the Clorox, chlorine off out of your hair and out of your body." And then they sat under the dryer and she brushed out their hairs, and then they had a rehearsal for sound. They wanted to go downstairs.
And this was at the Deauville Hotel.
Oh yeah, downstairs there was a big
in a ballroom.
One of the rooms off the ballroom, they set up for their drums and their guitars, and of course, don't forget, in their entourage they had sound people.
Sure.
And that's a funny
Now,
thing.
did this whole entourage stay at the Deauville Hotel?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But not on the same floor.
Okay.
But it's a funny thing. They were having problems with the sound right off the get-go. Something they didn't like. They kept playing, and they didn't like it, and they changed this and that, and they were waiting for somebody from England to arrive, who I understand later on was their main technician.
Uh-huh.
Anyhow, they were rehearsing, and they went through all the songs, and they wanted some clothes, and the shop brought in some pants and shirts and stuff which was for the climate. They only had that heavy English wool. They bought a few pants and shirts and stuff like that, and a couple suitcases for the dirty laundry. I said, well, let's send the laundry down, to the hotel. Yeah, it's all right. We'll take it home. They just bought some suitcases and threw the dirty shit in the suitcase. Which was fine. And Thursday night, of course, they had. You got to remember, when we got to the hotel, I'm skipping. I'm trying to remember. Before we went to the pool and everything, they had a interview
With
the press.
all press?
Yeah, the Landsberg and the owner of the hotel was there, and they sat down at a table and answered questions.
Any television news or just
Yeah,
reporters?
yeah,
Television.
everybody.
Uh-huh.
And when they were through, that's when I rushed them back upstairs, and they had lunch, and then we went down to the pool. And then the deal was that they would rehearse.
Oh yeah, to skip back, exactly how did they react to the grilled cheese sandwiches? You didn't.
They loved them. Ordered more.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, they loved them.
Oh okay.
Then they wanted scotch, and they ordered J&B and Coke, no ice, and Marlboro cigarettes. That's what they smoked. Now, I'm trying to bring this all about now. Let's say it's Thursday.
Right, you're at a sound check.
Thursday night, or if maybe they got there Friday. I don't know.
Yeah.
That could be checked. But that night, for dinner, we ate in the room, and that's the night. After I told them all the ground rules.
Yeah.
And they all agreed. You see, and I said, "There's no nonsense. This is the way it's going to be." And Ringo made some remark like, Daddy, you know, I'm going to call you Daddy, Daddy. I said, I don't care what you call me. I said, but you just better listen. Anyhow, that night, I believe, we went down to we were at the guest of the Landsbergs, and we went to the main room, and I believe it was Don Rickles was there, and also,
Singer
yeah, I forget, but Don Rickles was it.
was the opening act.
And naturally, I'm in uniform. That was a mistake. Now, when we walk in, they usher us to a front table.
Uh-huh.
Now, I'm trying to maneuver them in the front. See, I'm with them. All the other security are on the floor.
Right.
Remember, the other three guys.
Oh, it's just you.
Exactly. Of course, that night I ordered, you know, like 20 more men. But I tried to maneuver. I said, Cynthia, why don't you sit next to John here and George? And no, go ahead, Booty, go ahead. And they pushed me up front. They thinking that I want to see the show. I don't want to see the show. I would like to be in Omaha. I know Don Rickles. I've seen him 1,000 times. I know what's going to happen. So I'm sitting in the front. They're turned around and they ordered their J&B and scotch and Coke. And I just kept staring down, see. And then after whoever the act was, they said, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Warmth or whatever, Don Rickles. And he comes out and he, if I remember, he comes out and he walks around, how he bows, and he looks at our table, and in his hand he's got a mop. And he throws it, you know, like, here's another one of your group, you mop heads. And that started. And I'm sitting there, and he said, what is this? You got your own policeman. People are out here being raped and robbed, and you got a cop. Why don't you? And he comes over, and he's this close, you know. Hey, cop, what's your name, cop? No way. And I just looked it down and up, so he says, got no name? You can't be Jewish. No cops are Jewish. Are you Jewish? And I'm not, and they're hysterical. And he tore me up, you know, and I know better. All you have to do is say one word. So what do you want? Mute? And then they started on them. And, you know, this is what everyone's raving about. Got long hair, pimples, get laid, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Thank God that night was over.
Well, talk about when he mentioned the idea of quitting the police department.
Get a job.
So that was it was just one line. Why don't you? How did that come out? Do you remember?
Why don't you get a job, cop, or something like that? And they picked up on it.
Get a steady job.
Yeah, why don't you get a steady job?
So I mean, you never spoke like.
Never said a word.
You never said so the word steady though. I mean, it's not like you guys are on top of the world now, but it's not steady.
I told them that. But
that didn't come from the Rickles thing. That was your own joke.
Rickles.
And then they brought that back, utilizing the Rickles joke, saying you get a steady job.
Yeah, get a job, boy. You see them right.
Yeah, right.
Get a job. So, anyhow, that was that night.
Uh-huh.
Now
from the get-go, you were sleeping in the room with George?
No, I went home.
You went home.
I made sure they all were in, and then I put the security.
And now you are up to 24 men? Or?
At that time I had about, I got about another 10.
Okay.
And they were 2 in front of the elevators,
Uh-huh.
and 2 on each exit,
Uh-huh.
2 the floor below.
Uh-huh.
And what I did was I took a chair and I tilted it
Under a knob?
on the outside in the stairwell.
Right.
So if the men below had to go or I needed them, the fellas up top, if that door to get up, in other words, if if you picture, each floor has a door which enters into a stairwell.
All right.
Okay? Then you go up the steps and there's another door and you're on that floor. Okay? So I put the chair like this. So whoever would open that door, the chair would flop and the guys would hear it.
I see.
And then they would know somebody coming up.
Uh-huh.
And which I thought was brilliant.
Thank you for saying
and,
so.
And they, I made sure everybody was asleep, and I had to keep my record of time and this and that. And I went down, had dinner, and I went home. But by the time I got home, it was like 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I shower and go to bed. And before you know it, I was up at like 5:30, 5:45 to be back and make sure everything's cool.
Right.
So that's when I decided. I said to George, "You're getting a roommate," and especially after Sunday night, before when they told me that they're staying.
Oh, okay. Well, let's
Yeah.
try and stay in order. What now? You're
So
on
now
Saturday.
the goal was like Saturday, and they did some more rehearsal, and they had some interviews with the local radio stations, and they did some interviews with the British. And now the British wanted to take some pictures
All right.
of them on the beach. So I said, okay, look, go up to, I think it was 83rd Street, 84th Street. And I said, and just make a right turn and go down to the end of the street, and that's private beach, but nobody's up there. And I'll meet you there.
So who was doing the driving for them? I mean, just a limo driver or
For who?
for the Beatles?
No.
Oh, you're
This
telling
was
them
just-
to go ahead. And you're
This
going
is
to
the
meet
British.
them with
I
them.
had nothing to do with those. I just told them where I'm going to meet them.
All right. So yeah. Okay.
All right, now I've got to get them from the hotel. But of course, at that time, the word was out, and the kids were hanging all over the place.
How big was the crowd now, all told?
I guess a couple hundred kids.
Starting at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, they were staying outside in the driveway, trying to.
I mean, even that early in the morning, around 6.
Yeah, they were sitting on a wall, along the walls, just to see, on the beaches, like that. Now, I had to get them from the hotel to 85th Street, wherever. So I said, okay. Now Cynthia, John, and I sat in the front of my car. They wore
What were you driving then?
shirts.
Is that
the Blue Max?
the Blue Max?
Yeah. They wore.
Oh, no, that couldn't be. That was a '67 Chevy.
So
It was 1964.
I had a Chevy.
Oh, so it was a different Chevy.
I guess.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, it was a Chevy.
Okay.
I think it was a station wagon. Well, whatever.
Yeah.
They were those two were in front with me, and Paul and Ringo and George were in the back. And then I told downstairs through the walkie-talkie, I said, put my car in the driveway by the kitchen. My car facing out. And they were dressed,
In beach attire? Or?
no, it was shirts.
Yeah.
And we were going to the beach, and they had their suits, and I said, and bring couple police cars up to the ramp, and pretend you're waiting, or have your doors open.
Yeah.
And pretend that, we're waiting, hold back, and
That they're gonna be
and I
making-
says, and you'll pull them up and I'll get out of here. And it worked pretty good. We went up, and I found them at 86th Street or wherever it was, and the boys went in the ocean, and the British press were going like crazy, and I was sitting on the beach with Cynthia and I were sitting on a towel, again, I was in uniform, you know,
Yeah.
which I later tried to change because it was a dead giveaway. I
Right.
mean, they saw, and we were sitting, and then this couple of these photographers, you know, were told by the staff at the hotel. They overheard, you know, something like that. You really can't keep
Sure.
quiet. Anyhow, the photographers that showed up, I knew them, so there was no problem. And it's funny, and they're taking pictures, and I said to this one heavy-set photographer, I said, "See that blonde sitting there? Yeah, was that a groupie?" I said, "No, that's John Lennon's wife. She's the sweetest, nicest lady. They call England every chance they get. I think the kid was about 5 months old or 6 months or whatever, and was staying with his parents or her parents.
Uh-huh.
And oh, geez!" And then he ran over and started talking to her. And afterwards, there was a couple girls on the beach that came up,
Yeah.
and I knew, and they're in the Life magazine, and I
Right.
knew their parents, and they of course made friends and this and this and this, and they wanted to go out, you know. So I said, "Okay, look, I'll tell you
But
what."
the fellas wanted to take these girls out.
Yeah.
How many girls were there?
2. So I said, "Look, I can't do anything now. I'm not going to do anything till after the show." So I said, but after the show, and by that time now I got more policemen. You got
Right.
to understand, it kept building and
Right.
building and building till we used almost every policeman we had.
Uh-huh.
And what we did at night, you know, John and we would jump into the car, and I forget what night I took him up to we were heading for the Dream Bar, but the word got out, and as I pulled up, and Bobby Moorhead was working at that time, and it was his beat, and he said, "Pull away," he says, "they're waiting for you inside the place's mob." Word got out.
And where was the Dream Bar?
70, I think it was 71st and Collins.
Uh-huh.
Sam Butana, the saxophone, whatever fellow was there. Anyhow, I shot off, and I took them out to out by the airport. There was a rock group, and we went into the Airways or whatever it was
Yeah.
out by you got to remember now.
Yeah.
And I let them go in, and they got up on the stage and played a few numbers.
Did they really?
Yeah.
How big was the crowd?
Place was filled, but they didn't know we were coming. So.
And this was still just you
Just me.
escorting them?
Yeah.
The owner of the club must have been extremely
Oh.
happy. Did you know this person?
No.
And they
heard that there was a group they wanted to see.
Oh, you don't know what that group was?
No.
Oh, I think it's documented in a magazine. It was a well-known group.
And they went out, and when I went in, I said to the guy, "I'm bringing in the Beatles. If anything happens, you know, I'm out of here,
Yeah.
and just be cool." So we all got in, got a table, and of course a lot of the redneck guys were walking by looking because of the hair. Don't you see the hair at that time?
Sure.
And and I stood, you know, out of the way, let them enjoy themselves. And they had a drink, and Ringo got up and played the drums, and they played a couple of numbers or so. Then I saw that it started to
Condense.
bunch.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you lose it.
All right.
So I said, "All right, boys, finish up. Let's cut out of here." And we did, and
Do you remember if they were playing Beatles songs or the other group
I
songs,
don't
or just
know.
jamming?
You know, Barrett, when you do something like that, your head is spinning.
Yeah.
And I don't mean inside, but your eyes. You're
Yeah.
watching 40 people, because all it takes is one girl or one man
Yeah.
or somebody
So you were doing
to
your
grab
job.
them, scratch an eye,
Yeah.
and don't forget this was before Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I was just paying attention.
Yeah.
Anyhow, we got back, and we all went into the rooms, and they rehearsed. The next was either Saturday or whatever.
Or maybe Sunday morning before the show. Or?
Oh, they rehearsed
Yeah.
all of it. They couldn't get the sound right.
Uh-huh.
and we had to get the hair done, and they wanted to go into the water, and we went back to the ocean, and they got all wet, and then she came in and dried them, and they had to get ready, and now supper came. Now they were opening act on Sunday night. Myron Cohen.
So this would be around 7 o'clock, was it, our time? That the show would actually go?
Well, whenever Sullivan went on.
7 or 8, something like that.
I think he was from 7 to 8. He was prime time.
Yeah.
And we were in the room. They rehearsed. We were in the room. Oh, like Saturday, I remember people were trying to come up, and they couldn't get by the elevator.
People you knew, or?
Well, strangers, hotels, people I knew. I just didn't let them in. And this most gorgeous bunny you ever saw in your life came up. She apparently dated or had a date with Paul in New York. And she had an outfit on that wouldn't stop, and she said, "Paul will see me." But I says, no, Paul ain't seeing nobody till after this show. But anyhow, I let her meet with Paul, kind of like in the hallway. And then I said, like that. I said after the Sunday. So, she.
Now, when at this point they were planning to still leave Monday morning? Or
Yeah.
Monday morning.
Yeah.
So.
I thought.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, when can you postpone these people to? I mean, he's gonna.
No, well, I'm trying to dust them off.
I see. Okay.
And women, young girls were coming down the hallway, and I would spot them, and they were in white uniforms, and they had towels.
Yeah.
And I said, "Can I help you?" "Yes, we're here to make up the rooms." I said, "Good shot. Good try." "What do you mean?" I said, "The help here wear green, not white." And I don't know how they got up, and they tried every angle in the world to get in.
Can you think of any others like that?
Well, there was one writer, and I believe his name was Silverman or Silverberg. He wrote for the papers or magazines or whatever. He came up, and he just said, "Do you mind if I sit in the hallway, talk to you guys, see what goes on?" And he had proper identification.
Yeah.
I said, "No, not at all." I said, "Can't go in and interview because that has to be cleared through Epstein at that time was in town in Somerville." And then don't forget they had Murray the K was with them, and they had quite a few people, but different floors. And
but I mean, can you remember anything sly, like the girls in the different uniforms of people trying to get by?
they tried. Those two girls tried that. A couple of them came up the back steps, and of course when the chair fell, they started running. And then what they did, a bunch of them got off the elevator and come running down the hall. I mean, like maybe 15 or 20.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there with the Silverman or Silverberg, and he says, "Holy God, and here they come." So I said, "Watch." I stood up and I hollered, "That's it, you're all under arrest." I said, "Get their names. No one move, up against the wall." And when they heard arrest, they turned around and they started running for all the exits, and I said, "Let them go, don't stop them. Give them an exit." But they come running, and this guy got a little worried, And I just stood up by and said, "You're all under arrest, up against the wall." Loud though, I could.
With authority.
Yell. I yelled. And of course you see doors open. Whoop, whoop, boop, boom. They close their doors and people are living.
Now, was there anybody else on that hallway? Regular private citizens?
Oh yeah, a couple of them come over and say, "What's going on?" I said, highly confidential. Highly confidential.
Wouldn't it have been better to put somebody like Somerville and somebody within that party so you can know the whole floor was your people?
No, I had no arrangements for that.
Yeah.
That was all done through CBS. There was a lot of them came up to the rooms. All Sullivan's staff.
Right.
And they're the ones that are paying, and they're the ones calling the shot.
Wow.
So anyhow, it's Sunday night. Finally get them set down. and they're hungry, and they're looking at the menu, and I'll never forget this.
This is still room service.
Always,
Yeah.
always room service.
Okay.
So I said, I'm gonna have a steak. And I said, and some shrimp cocktail. And see, now they eat funny. They eat dessert before the meal, like Paul, like cake before he would eat something. He says, "What is?" He said, "I feel like some fish. What is this fresh lake sturgeon?" And it's gefilte fish. I said, "Well, I said that's probably the best fish you ever ate in your life." I said,
But I mean, it actually said gefilte fish and then described
no,
it.
fresh lake sturgeon.
Chopped.
Yeah. It just says fresh lake sturgeon.
Oh, okay.
And if you didn't know it was gefilte fish, you had a surprise. And I don't think it said gefilte fish.
Oh,
I
okay.
just told him, I said, it's the best fish in the world. And I said, I eat it all the time. But tonight I feel like a steak. You'll love it. So anyhow, he had the cake, chocolate cake, and he had the fish, and he ordered a grilled cheese and some, I forget, they all had all crazy goddamn thing. I'm eating. Now comes the fish. And he looks at it. You know, and they're looking.
And it's served like a hunk of the chopped
yeah,
gefilte
nice
fish.
bit on lettuce.
Yeah.
You know, with the carrot and the horseradish.
Horseradish,
You
yeah.
know. And he says, there's no head, there's no tail. I said, well, they take this fish and they grind it up. And he says, just taste it. And then I started to laugh, you know, they taste it. And I said, you put some of this red stuff on it. You know, and he says, what is that? I said, it's called gefilte fish. Gefilte, you know,
Yeah.
gefilte. I said, yeah, the Jewish people, they love it. And what's it made out of? I says, hundreds of different types of fish, and they, like this. And I started to laugh. You know, like I tricked them. You know. Anyhow, they were eating, and they had more grilled
Was that the
cheese.
first time did you discuss that you were Jewish with them?
Oh no, not the first time. They knew.
Oh, okay.
I when we were sitting and talking a couple times with John,
Uh-huh.
you know, and we were talking, he was very deep.
Uh-huh.
You know, I like to talk to him, very deep. And
Can you recall any?
he talked about the Vietnam War, and he couldn't understand why we butted in. And then I said to him, well, don't forget, at that time I was a big hawk.
All right.
And I said, well, John, why did we butt in when England was getting their ass whipped? 2 wars. If it wasn't for us, I said, you'd be, you know, you'd
Speak in
still be
Russian.
walking with the
German.
Germans over
Yeah.
there. I said, what do you mean? We stick our neck in to save people's asses, especially the British.
And how did he respond to that?
And I says, I said, we'll never forgive you, British, for what you did in Israel. And he says, what do you mean? And I said, you turned over everything to the Arabs, you got out, and you took all the guns from the Jews. I said, were you inviting slaughter? You know, we got a little heavy into that.
Yeah.
And I says, you know, I'm Jewish. And I didn't appreciate it, and a lot of Jews didn't appreciate it. And he said, and then we went back to the Vietnam and like that. But they knew. I never said another.
Yeah.
We never discussed religion or politics after that, because I always found that how you get in big arguments is religion and politics.
Sure.
You just stay away from
Did
that.
you ever speak to him or the others about artistic things or any other kind of?
Well, I noticed that 2 of them were left-handed
Uh-huh.
players, and I said, geez, that's weird, playing with the left hand and the right hand. And I said to them, they were telling me how they got started in these little clubs, and I said, you really, in rehearsal, they joke around. They just had a great time.
Yeah.
And they think it's a gas. You see, they think if you look at the beginning of the pictures of them, John will look at Paul, or Paul will look at John or George, and they'll do a movement.
Right.
And the girls will scream, and they'll keep doing that movement, and they're just having a great time.
Yeah.
Nothing's planned. It's all
Interactive.
right, and they're laughing like crazy, because they think it's all a big gas.
Yeah.
Anyhow, getting back to the dinner.
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to, while you were on the subject of having conversations with John, I just want to know if any other ones come to mind, because I never heard these before.
We discussed the war. We discussed where I was, and we discussed a lot about the police and the black situation and so forth. But I kind of stayed away. I didn't want to get involved with that shit.
Okay. Okay.
So anyhow, now we're eating, and they want more grilled cheese sandwiches. And I says, look, fellas, we have to be, downstairs by 6:45. You got to get all the thing, and and Regina was coming up, and she was doing the hair, and they're hungry. They ain't leaving. Meanwhile, in the interim, the English engineer did show up, and the acoustics, were worked out, whatever the technical thing was. And now it's getting close to the food comes. It says, eat up, Now it's getting a little tight.
Yeah.
So I call outside and I says, grab me an elevator and freeze it. And I said, all right, fellas, let's go. No, they're pissed. They want their dinner. They ate, and I believe we left the room like 10 to 7. And we went down the elevator and we started to run, and we had to go through the kitchen, and the people are, the cooks and everything, I said, get the hell out of the way, and I said, just follow me. And they're running, and just as we get to the stage, Myron Cohen is starting to walk up the stage, because the Beatles were the opening act.
Oh, so Ed Sullivan did the whole show from Miami Beach?
Yeah.
And he was here himself?
Oh, sure.
Oh, I thought that...
I was this close to him.
I thought that he was in New York and this
no,
was just a...
no. And he was out. And he said, and now, ladies and gentlemen,
And you just arrived exactly in time?
And he's walking to go up, and there's people on the side.
Yeah.
And they gave him some kind of a signal, and I grabbed by the ass, because there was like 2 steps, and then they had to step up, and I threw their asses up on the stage, and they ran up and got their guitars, which are, they stand up on stands.
Right.
And Ringo jumped behind the step and got his sticks. And then Myron come down, and I said, pretty close. He says, well, very close, because he doesn't open.
Yeah.
Myron Cohen don't open an act.
Oh, so they changed the schedule?
Yeah.
Did you get phone calls in the room saying, where the hell are they?
Sure.
Oh.
And I kept saying, yeah. And I said, they ain't coming. They're eating. They want their grilled cheese sandwich. And anyhow, it went off.
Luckily they didn't have chives.
And they played, and it went off beautiful. And
How many people in the audience?
Oh, it was mob. Don't forget they had a dress rehearsal that day.
Yeah.
That's what tired them out.
Uh-huh.
And they had a dress rehearsal, and then they had the people were in and out, and then they had the main show. So after that, we went. They had a party. The Landsbergs had a party.
Where at?
In the hotel.
Uh-huh.
You don't go nowhere.
Okay.
And they were in this big room and socializing and this and that, and we went back upstairs, and it was like 12 o'clock, something like that.
Uh-huh.
And Sullivan thanked them and good show and all this, and the people came back from CBS.
Right.
And good show and this and that, big ratings. And I'm sitting there, and of course, I figure, oh, thank God, I'm going home tomorrow,
Right.
And Brian Somerville comes in, and he says, I got some news. He says, I don't know how to tell you this, but the boys like you very much. And I said, well, I like them. They're nice kids. He did what I told them. No problems. We handled the crowd good and everybody.
Show went
He
off.
says, oh, you did beautiful. He says, no problem. And he says, but they're not going home. I says, oh, yeah, they're going home, He says, no.
He didn't say, well, I am.
No, no. He said, no, they want to stay a few more days. And the 4 days, I believe they were supposed to be here 4 days, turned into 10.
Right.
And I said, well, isn't that interesting? I said, does the hotel know? Not yet. I said, does Mr. Sullivan know? He says, no. I says, you know, somebody has to pay the hotel. I mean, it's not my business, but
Yeah.
you just can't say. I says, you got half the police department here, if not more.
Yeah.
So he says, well, he says, we're waiting for Mr. Epstein. Well, Mr. Epstein was a very strange man. And anyhow, I call up the chief, who was in and out.
How was he strange in your opinion?
I thought he was very strange because we were, at one time, before he left, for England, we were sitting there, everything, you know, he wore was silk. Scott and this and that. And I figure he was a little, you know. And I said to him about, you know, that it's a big job taking care of these fellas. And, you know, to the point, like, they're going to stay. So he says, oh yes, the boys like you very much. And I says, yeah, but you got to have a little Rachmaninoff on me. And he says, are you Jewish? I said, yeah. He says, you don't look Jewish. I said, well, I am Jewish. I says, and if you know what Rachmaninoff means, pity. I said, I've been with these fellas at this time now. I'm sleeping there, you know. So I haven't seen my family. I get clothes, you know, brought down to me. And he said, well, they appreciate everything. And he goes back to England. Now I'm left with Brian Summer. And I said, geez, you know, so I called the chief up right away.
Yeah.
I said, Rock, we got a problem. And he said, what's the matter? I said, they ain't gone. He says, what? I said, they're not gone. He says, well, what are they going to do? I said, that beats the living hell out of me. I said, they'll do whatever I tell them to do. Well, what do I do with them? You know, he says, well, he says, just keep doing what you're doing. I says, thank you. You know, keep doing what I'm doing.
No more rehearsals, no more show.
No, you know, like Sullivan's through,
Yeah.
CBS is through. Thank you. Lovely letters. Thank you. You did good.
Yeah.
We're out of here. Now it's up to you. You got, you know, now I realize, you know, if you're on national television, they got to be pretty good, you know,
Yeah.
at the point in time. Well, then after that, you know, I made arrangements, and Murray the K came in and said, we got an appointment for whatever, Monday when Castro was a record man, not this Castro, but had a boat off of Indian Creek Drive.
Right.
And he has a big home right off around 47th Street, 46th Street on Miami Beach. So we went to his house.
Well, can I ask one question before? Did you have any knowledge? I heard in a report that the Beatles were they had an appointment, or they had a command performance with the Queen that they canceled and stayed in Miami Beach. They were supposed to fly back to England.
Yeah, they were supposed to go back. I didn't know about the Queen, but I know they were supposed to start a movie. Was either Hard Day's Night or The Yellow Submarine, or the first movie they made.
Yeah, Hard Day's Night.
Yeah, they didn't.
Oh, so they had a movie schedule they postponed as well?
Yeah.
Oh, because I heard in a report that they postponed a command performance for the Queen to hang out with you.
I knew they just didn't want to go.
Yeah.
And they said, like Paul, and they said, okay, Bo, you know, Bood, whatever you want us to do, we'll do.
Okay.
So
you go to Castro.
We went there, and at Castro's house, this gentleman who later got killed, what the hell was his name? I'll think of the name. He's the one that invented the cigarette motorboat. He took them all out for rides, and they loved the boat.
Yeah.
And they took them all up and down.
And was this when they went water skiing?
Yeah.
Was this the first time? I would assume they
Yeah, never water skied.
So would they like flop all over the water?
They were doing pretty good. Paul and Ringo didn't go.
Yeah. He was afraid of
He didn't like the water. John tried it, and Arno, his name was Arno. He got killed on a drug deal or something. Anyhow, we went to this Castro and went on a boat, and then these two girls that I told you we met on there, they called up, and I knew the parents and this and that.
Who were their parents?
One was named Turchin, the builder.
But not like mayor, mayor, councilman.
Well, yeah, one was a councilman, was Turchin, one of the biggest builders in Miami Beach. And I knew the other one was a niece of a man named Goldberg, who was head of the Elks Club.
Right.
So they wanted to go over to the Turchin home for a barbecue and spend the day. And I figured, geez, that's great, let them go. So I made arrangements to meet like on 75th Street in the back of Parham's restaurant.
Right.
And I drove up with them, and then they got in the cars, and I made a time to meet them and bring them back. I didn't want them coming back to the hotel with me. And they spent one night there. One night I took, this is a funny story.
Oh, so they spent the night at the Turchin?
Dinner.
Oh, I see.
They had dinner, and they spent the evening, and they came home.
Were they there unescorted?
Yeah, I let them. I figure you can only hawk them too much, you know what I mean? And as long as they listen.
But there was a car waiting outside at all times or whatever? Or
What do you mean?
a car waiting to take them?
No.
They had to call.
I told them, you will be here at 10:30, 11 o'clock, and I will be there. If you're late, you'll never have another opportunity.
Right.
So they were there, and they got in my car, and then we slipped in the back way, and that's how they went home. Now,
So all the while, still the word is out, and there's still kids all over the Deauville.
All over the place. And now John comes.
No,
to
I'm
me.
sorry to interrupt again. And you still need to do certain things like pulling up police cars and pulling in back entrances.
Yeah, but you got to make payrolls. You got to make sure that I can get out of the back, and then if I reverse it, let them come into the back, I go out the front.
Yeah.
There's only a certain way you can get in and out of the hotel.
Okay.
So John came to me and he says, "Look, you got to help me with Cynthia. She feels that she's a prisoner in here, and I would like to let her go out with the wife of this English engineer.
Right.
They want to go shopping."
Right.
I said, "No problem." So I got Ruth Regina. I said, "I want you to fix her up with a wig and sunglasses and some little darker makeup because she looks
Pale.
white. They're all white. And I want her to get out and have a good time." So I said, "And before you go, I want to see you." So the phone rings. She says, "Come on down." I walk in, and there's several women sitting there. You don't know her from nowhere.
Yeah.
They had like a Cleopatra wig on her,
Yeah.
and sunglasses, and a pancake, I guess you call it. Like she had a tan.
Yeah.
Looked great, and she just walked in and out of the hotel. No one bothered her. No one.
Right.
So she was happy.
Uh-huh.
And John couldn't stop thanking me. And I said, "It's no big deal." And then we would. Then one night, Paul. The night that they went. John didn't want to go. Okay?
To
this
Turchin's.
Yeah, he didn't want to go. He wasn't that sociable, It was Paul and Ringo. They went because they were you know.
They wanted the girls.
And George says to me, let's you and I go out, get a drink. And he had this yen, to see Miami and so
Right.
forth. And so I said, okay. So I put on a shirt and we drove all around. I showed him different parts of Miami and this and that. And we went over to Max, Pelican Roost.
Yeah, Max Stern.
And we had some drinks and made a couple phone calls. And young lady showed up and George went off and I had a nice time and came back and we went riding
This was
around.
a professional woman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said, if anything happens to him, and a place to hide,
Where did they go off to, do you know?
her apartment.
Uh-huh.
And they came back, and when he walked in, the waitress was cleaning a glass. I'll never forget it, and she just kept wiping that glass, wiping the glass. And he reached over, shook her hand, and gave her a kiss, and I thought she'd melt.
Yeah.
And that was then one night. Him and this young English engineer, not Brian Somerville, they said he just got his MG, one from the MG company.
Uh-huh.
They loaned him an MG. And they said, can we have permission to go for a ride? I said, yes.
Now, was George Martin there at all? George Martin being the guy who, maybe he was the engineer.
Maybe.
Oh, that was George Martin.
I don't
Oh,
know. I
okay.
didn't care.
He's the one who produced all their
Maybe.
Yeah,
I
go
couldn't care less.
Okay, go ahead.
My responsibility was the four and
Uh-huh.
Cynthia. So I said, okay, here's what you do. You go up Collins, as far as you want to go,
Right.
and you don't go off of Collins, and you turn around and then you come back Collins,
Yeah.
so that you start at 67th Street, you can go down to the water, and you can go all the way up to the
And
Rocket.
This was just with George, right?
George and this English kid.
Yeah.
And I said, but don't speed, and I want you home by 11. Okay? Oh, yeah, thanks, bud, thanks, 11, 12, 1. Now, I figure
Trouble.
I'm in trouble. I'm in big trouble. Then he comes, the door opens, he comes marching in. And I chewed him out like he was you. You son of a bitch. You guys, I don't have enough gray hair. You, blah, blah, blah. He says, let me explain. They went up and they were driving and they were having a good time and they had stopped into some restaurant and they had a bite. No one bothered them. But coming down, a police car pulled them over. Because from the back, it looked like,
A man and a woman?
yeah,
Uh-huh.
and they had their arm around each other. But for some reason, and anyhow they were stopped, whether they thought they were two homosexuals or whatever, they were stopped up around Golden Beach.
Uh-huh.
And the policeman went over and, the long hair, and they told them who they were, and now the guy says, well, you got to give me autographs from my kids. And he called the other policemen, and they had a camera, and they were taking pictures or something with them,
Yeah.
and that's why they were stopped. And I said, well, that'll be the end of that, because you get stopped. And we went a couple times in the MG,
Yeah.
George and I, we rode around. We were going to go into JFK Senior High to see Mother.
Uh-huh.
And and then when we pulled in, and all the kids started to see, I said, pass, let's get out of here. And we stopped off, they loved the sun, we
Sure.
stopped off different spots.
Now, did they ever get burnt beyond recognition?
Well, the thing is, when I started to take them to the private home, I had to rub them with oil. I kept rubbing them with oil. I says, you guys have to listen to me. You keep
But this was
putting
no
on.
sun protection oil. This was oil.
This was the old days. You had the
Tanning.
copper tone
Yeah.
oil, and they were getting red and red. I says, you're going to burn up. You, of course, the show was over. So I guess they didn't care.
So they didn't peel or anything?
No, but they just
Yeah.
got red, and oh, they loved it. They loved it. You know, go in the water. Then that was. I had to find a place to take them. I was just running out of places. I told you, I took them that one night at home for dinner.
Yes. Oh, before you get that, when did you start to use laundry trucks? And how many times did you do that?
This was after I took them home for dinner. I called Mom up and I said, look, I want to see the kids. Yes, and
It was also Valentine's Day.
yeah, and
How did that fit in?
well, what happened was I called up, and they called up, and Mom never got the flowers.
Yeah.
George called up downstairs and said, I want to send flowers, and I wrote everything out for
Yeah.
him, but they got screwed up downstairs and
Uh-huh.
they didn't send it. But then I called up Mom and I says, you forgive me for Valentine's Day. And I said, I got somebody here who's a witness that I'm working.
Yeah.
And he got on, please, Mrs., you know,
Yeah.
don't holler at Booty, we love him, and blah, 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 blah. And so that's when I said, how about I come home for dinner? She says, well, how many? I said, I don't know, 8, 10. And that's when we all, it was Murray Decay and his group, and that's when we were sitting outside of our house, and I said, how would you guys like to see a drive-in?
Now wait a minute. Now when you brought them home,
Yeah.
I remember just a white Cadillac. I don't remember our car.
My car, yeah. That
Yeah.
was my car, then Murray Decay, and his group. There was 13, I believe.
Yeah.
And then the British press
Right.
snuck in.
Uh huh.
But I never let them go out, only in my car. And I'd leave the hotel and I'd pull into a driveway and I shut the lights off and the cars would go by and I'd back out and, you know, I knew the area and they didn't.
Yeah.
Anyhow, they found it though. And after we had dinner at the house, which, you know, in a good time, we came back. And now, at that point, I had to start figuring out where the hell to take them.
Uh huh.
So I had a friend, Mel Garvey, who was a police officer,
Uh huh.
was married to a very nice lady who lived up on Star Island. And she had this big, monstrous home. And, oh yeah, well, we were at the Castro house.
Right.
There was a bridge, and it went over, like, Surprise Lake.
Oh, that's where you were fishing.
Yeah, no, that's where they were with the motorboat.
Uh huh.
And a bunch of little kids went over the bridge, and it was so funny, like stop action.
Yeah.
They crossed over the bridge, and then they came back on the center of the bridge, and they looked over, and it was like in the birds.
Then
You
it
saw
was
like two kids, and then I says, we're in trouble. And then you look and saw there was like 3,
Yeah.
then there was kids and their mothers, then the bridge got half filled, you know, but they couldn't get into the house,
Right.
but they were waving and they were waving. And anyhow, I had a friend of mine, this Mel Garvey, and I called Mel up and I said, Mel, I said, I'm in trouble here. I got to take care of these guys and I don't know where the hell to take them. So I said, what can I do to help you? I said, can I use your house? I just want to use the pool. He says, no problem. I said, you sure? He said, I'll tell the missus that you're coming. And she'll have a setup. I said, no problem. I don't want her to go to fuss, nothing like that. So now, how am I going to get him? So Sandy's Cohan's downstairs. He was, at that time, he was charged of security.
Because you're thinking that now they've caught on to all your tricks.
Yeah, they ain't no way you're going to get him out.
Uh-huh.
So I called up a couple friends of mine that had Ace Parcel Delivery.
Uh-huh.
And I said, I need a favor. You owe me, I need a favor. What do you want? I said, I want to leave the hotel by myself. I get a ride up. I want to meet you. Always like Atlantic Way because there's very little,
Yeah.
traffic. I need your truck, and I'll be responsible. The city will be responsible for it. But I want it empty, and I'll drive. So they said, okay. So I'm not sure now, I think it was Artie Schickler or another policeman, and I had a t-shirt on and plain clothes, and we got laundry carts. And we put them in, not Cynthia. Yes, Cynthia and John and Paul. Yeah, there was 3, I could push 3. And then the other 2 were in the other.
Big laundry carts?
Canvas.
Yeah.
Where the linen,
Yeah, and you threw towels on top of them and
put the
stuff?
stuff, went down the service elevator,
Yeah.
went out. Oh, first of all, I got a ride. I was like a worker.
Yeah.
And I got out, and I walked out the back. No one paid attention to me.
Right.
And I got a ride, went up to 70 or 86th Street, got in the truck, okay, put the hat on.
Right.
They left, and the little white jacket that had Ace Parcel Delivery.
Yeah.
And I came down and I swung in the service entrance.
Right.
Well, nobody paid attention because at that time, police cars were pulling up and limousines were pulling up, and there was a couple kids hanging on the roof.
Yeah.
But nothing to worry about. And the policeman pushed the laundry
Yeah.
out, and I said, open the back, and they wheeled it around and pulled the linen this way, and they jumped this. But by the second kid on the
Yeah.
wall, one of the kids on the wall, one of the workers went like this, a real sweet guy. And meanwhile, they were in the truck.
Yeah.
I backed the truck out, and before anybody knew anything, I'm going down Alton Road,
Yeah.
I'm going to Star Island. Now, there's nothing in the back. They got to hold on to the sides, right? So they said, somebody, I forget who, made a smart remark, Is this how you drive in America or both? I says, I want to teach you a lesson. And I started to do this. So they were rolling. Hey, we're rolling. I said, be good. Be good. And I said, say something bad. This is what happens. And I'm driving down, right? Got the radio on and I'm singing and I look like a delivery. And a friend of mine pulls right alongside. And he's driving on his own, and he looks up. What the hell are you doing there? I said, I'm working part-time, extra job. He says, you'll do anything for $1, you son of a bitch. I said, you're right. You don't know how right you are. And he says, I'll see you, bud. I said, I'll see you, Lenny, whatever, Lenny Schaefer. And I go down to Star Island and I pull in and they get out and they're really beat the hell up, And they have a great time. And Mrs. Garvey had her lady friends over playing bridge, never looked up. Never bothered them for an autograph, but I made each one go over and sign a little something for her, thanking her. And now they're getting hungry. And they have no money. You know this. I told you they had no money.
Yeah.
So I call up Lums and I put in an order, hot dogs and hamburgers and this, that. Come to about $20. I think that's about all I had. And they deliver it up and I walk out and I get the food. He says, what are you having, a party? I said, no, I'm a hungry person. And I paid and I came in and we ate out by the pool. And that's the shot you see them in the pool where the 4 of them are in the pool.
So those photographers were with you at that point?
We told them where to come. See, I think they were more or less obligated to the British and to a few of the American for the publicity.
Sure.
And they were nice, and I had no problem with that. Except the night of the dinner, the British press, they said if I would let them in, and take pictures of all the meal
Right.
and this and that they would send us copies,
And they
which
never did.
never
Do
did.
you remember any of their names?
Oh, I wish I did, but no. I took their name. You know, they took my name and everything.
Yeah.
And it's all bullshit. Anyhow, we had a lovely time at there, and I said, do you mind if I come back? And they said, no. So we went back the next day. Mel was there.
Uh-huh.
And Mel took out the fishing rods and put them on the boat, and we took them out for a ride, and I taught them how to fish, and they caught fish, and they wouldn't put the bait on, and they wouldn't take the fish off. But, you know, and then I had to keep rubbing them with oil. I mean, they were just laying out there, you know, with that white milky skin, but they would get red, and it seemed like they'd disappear,
Yeah.
you know. And I wouldn't let them get too burnt. But,
Yeah.
you know, so I said, geez, you know, you can really get hurt with that. And we had a great time there, and they fished, and they said, that's what we're going to do. We're going to buy 4 of those speedboats, 4 islands, and we're going to record on the island, and each one will build a house, and we'll go from island to island in these boats. And that was,
Cigarette boats.
yeah, that's what they were dreaming about. And that's what I was telling them. Oh, well, we were also on this Castro,
Yeah.
had a boat, kind of like a limo,
Uh-huh.
a big boat,
Yeah.
you know, yacht. And downstairs, Paul was starting to play something on the piano,
Uh-huh.
you know. And that's when he started, like the night before, we were laying in bed. Remember, I think I told you. And it was Paul and George and myself.
Uh-huh.
And Ringo was in the chair.
Uh-huh.
And we loved Outer Limits.
Oh, yeah.
And we loved Lucy, and we loved it. But they didn't know any of these people. They knew of Danny Kaye,
Uh-huh.
but they didn't know Lucy, they didn't know this, Outer Limits. And that's when I said, God, if I had that gun. So Paul said, what do you mean? I says, Paul, look, zap, zap. I says, no more killers, no more gangsters. I want one of those guns, you know.
Yeah.
He says, zap. I says, yeah, and that's when they kept saying zap, you know. So when he was down on the pool, I mean, in the yacht,
Right.
he started playing the piano, and you know, I didn't pay attention to him. And then the other fellows came down. They were all sitting side by side and playing and joking around and all this and that. And that's when I said to them, I said, you guys are real nice kids. And I said, listen to me. I'm talking to you like your father. Save your money. Get a good, smart, Jewish attorney or an investor. Put it away, because you ain't gonna last. It's a novelty. And I'm talking so serious. You know, I said, I'm serious when I'm telling you. You know, the Americans and people are funny. One minute you're hot, and then the next minute they don't know you. So put it away.
It's not steady.
And it is, yeah. I says, you can't play. You listen to you. I says, you're banging on the piano. I says, you're not. I said, and I mentioned a couple of good old-time guitar players. And I said, you're not like them. And I said, I'm serious. You're nice kids. And I said, just put it away. You're gonna.
How'd they react to it?
They laughed. They said, you're right. We're going to save it. And I said, because there'll be a million people trying to get a piece of you. Put it away. Let a good investor, so that when you're older, you don't have to worry about anything. You know, and they weren't taken back at it. They accepted it as logic from an older person. You know?
Yeah,
Go no. Go no.
Yeah.
At that point in time, they liked me, I liked them. I said, how about letting me have 2 points just for advice or something? You know?
What'd they say?
No, I mean, if I said that, but I didn't. In fact, I think the biggest thing was that I respected their privacy so much because, like I told you, there was bags of film, rolls of film.
Yeah.
And
That they were taking.
yeah, they must have taken 500 pictures of me. And at the pool and at this Garvey's house, every time I turned around, they were clicking and clicking. But I never took any of them. I felt, hey, they're resting, they're nice kids.
I get those questions all the time.
And second of all, I figured
Or recording them.
Who the hell knows?
You could recorded him on the piano. I mean,
It was funny because the people said, "You mean? Hola, ¿cómo está? Hello, chico.
What's the matter with you, huh?
I'm feeling better. I'm pregnant." You know, and I said to myself, "Go no,
yeah.
go no." But I really, truly respected their privacy, and I didn't want to infringe on it.
Yeah.
You know, and that was it.
So,
And so I never really took any pictures. Now at the end, they wanted to give me something. Now I said to Brian Somerville, I said, I laid out about $40 here,
yeah.
and I'm getting a big $3 from the hotel. So he said, "I'll get you your money," and he did. And they came in and they said, "We want to give you something, but we have no money." I said, "I know, you don't owe me anything." I said, "When you get back to England, you'll send me a couple of the shirts, the big collar shirts."
Yeah.
Paul did. And Paul also gave me his electric razor. And, I mean, they just didn't have anything.
Right.
But now, that picture that you saw,
The painting.
yeah, stuff was coming up constantly from
Gifts,
downstairs.
yes.
No, not so much gifts as endorsements. Guy sent that up. Can he get permission to sell those?
I see.
And they threw it away. And I said, no, give me that. Sign it. Yes,
Yeah.
I'll take that. As I'll remind you, as you squash, and mouth organs from all kind of mouth organs. Those big black keyboard things. They came up and they said, "Bud, do you want one?" I said, "Nah." I just give it to the other policemen for their kids or whatever.
But they were hoping that the Beatles would endorse it. They could use the name to sell
Exactly.
it. I see.
And all kind of stuff was coming up.
No, what you were about to say something about the movie theater, the drive-in. You never finished that.
After supper,
Uh-huh.
I said to Murray to Kate, I said, he wasn't feeling too good.
Uh-huh.
I said, "You guys ever been to a drive-in?" So they said, "What's a drive-in?" And I said, "Come, I'll show you."
So all four of them?
Always in my car. 5.
Uh-huh. Right, to the four of them.
Yeah. And I said to Murray, "Okay, you follow." He says, "Well, I wanted to take them to a club, And I says, "Fine, I forget where he wanted to take them. And they didn't want to, I don't know what the story was. He had a nightclub that he wanted to take him to.
Uh-huh.
And I think it was strictly as a, exploit.
For himself.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So, anyhow, we went to this drive-in on Biscayne Boulevard. And I swear to you, to this day, I still swear that it was an Elvis Presley movie.
Uh-huh.
And we pulled in, and I put the speaker, and they were absolutely couldn't, get over it. And look at that theater, there's the picture, and here's the sound, and
Yeah.
Did
you have popcorn and all this
no,
stuff?
because we weren't there 10 minutes. Of course, I got a spot, and I figured they would get away. Well,
Yeah.
Murray Decay had to be close, and this
Yeah.
and that, and then he come out, and before you know it, kids going by to pick up candy and
Yeah.
stuff would look in, and see this crowd around our car, and before you know it, they said, "This the Beatles," and this and this and that, because I was in uniform.
Right.
And I tore out of there, and I forget where else. We may have gone to another nightclub, I'm not sure,
Now, did
or
you-
a bar, but I'm not sure.
Did you ever put them in disguises?
No.
Did you ever put other officers in disguises to, make them look like the Beatles?
No, the only time, the time with the, when I talked to Sandy, when I used the delivery card,
Yeah.
I said, now. And Sandy said, "Bud, you've been made. The kids know that you're coming in this Ace truck."
Right.
And he says, they'll be watching. I said, "Okay." I said, I got to think of something to divert them. So what I did was there was another means of transportation I used. And I put them in. I think it was I hired a car or I rented a limo.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. But another policeman drove the laundry truck.
Right.
And I told him, I said, Sandy, we're at 75th Street now, and the Dover was 67.
Right.
I said, we're heading south. I said, make a big preparation on the ramp for the delivery truck.
Right.
I said, tell everybody, step back, they're coming in, and this and that. I'm going in the service entrance. So he says, okay, and we timed it, and the Ace parcel truck went up the ramp, and the kids went over, and they were shaking the truck, and I slipped right in to the, and I just left the car. We started running, went through the kitchen and right up to the rooms.
Wow.
So meanwhile, they almost wrecked the truck.
Can you think of any other times when you had to use other diversionary tactics like that you haven't said so far?
No, after that it was a matter of I got him out of there twice.
Uh-huh.
Twice we went to Garvey's house.
Right.
And like I said, the first time was cool. The second time we were made.
Yeah.
And then it was ready to go.
Now,
when they were ready to go, naturally they had limousines, and they went out through the service entrance.
Yeah.
And they had police blocking, and they just got them through.
Now, here also on your list you have dates for Ringo and Paul.
That's the two girls.
Oh, I see. Now, that girl that came to visit from New York,
The bunny.
did he ever see her?
No.
Now, what was the story with Paul having crabs?
It was Paul and Joy.
Uh-huh.
They came out and they said, Bud, I think I got the crabs.
Now, at what point in the trip did they tell you this?
It was after the Sullivan show.
After the show, okay.
And they think they know who gave it to them. It was that little girl that was in the movie Exodus.
Oh, so it's someone who they met in New York as well.
Because she came down and called up.
Uh-huh.
And she says, I have a friend of mine who's a photographer, blah, blah, blah. So I says, nobody up there.
Yeah.
Nobody. Well, we have to. We're obligated, more or less. So I figured, I says, why? Well, in New York, she was very good to us.
Uh-huh.
So I figured she took care of everybody, see?
Okay.
And so I said, okay. So she came up with this weird photographer. So they just clicked a bunch of pictures in the room.
Right.
And I
All four of them.
yeah, and I said, okay, that's enough. So it was like, maybe the next day when they were taking a shower, they said,
So they didn't get a chance to get together with her in Miami?
no.
Okay.
So I called downstairs and I asked them if they had Cuprex, which I used in the Navy.
Which is?
For lice.
Uh-huh.
And I went down, I got 2 bottles, and I gave it to them, and I said, now, you start from the hair, your eyebrows, your chest, your arms, your legs, and not everything. And you don't come out. Stand in that tub. And I ain't touching your clothes. So they had the suitcases, I told you. So they put all the clothes in the suitcase. And, can we come out now? I said, no. I says, you've got to wait 15 minutes. So I made him wait more. Then I said, now you turn on the hot water, as hot as you can stand it, and you soap yourself, and I'll shampoo yourself. And I said, if you don't, those suckers will start crawling in your ears and eat your brains out. And, So they did, and it did the trick, but it stinks,
Do they still make that product?
I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. was Q-Prex. And anyhow, I said, who do you think, you know, and they said, well, it had to be her because they didn't have too much fooling around.
Uh-huh.
So we assumed that it was her.
Uh-huh.
And no, he never made it with the bunny, but she was gorgeous. Oh, Lord.
Now, what about, though, weren't there, I thought there was like a story of like councilmen's daughters or something like that like came up and you had to let them in or something. And
Well, these were the two girls. But
that you met on the beach.
these are the councilman's girls, but Rocky came up and said, Jesus, tell them to be careful, you know, with these girls. I says, how can I tell them to be careful?
Yeah.
And as it was, they must have bombed, you know, pretty good.
So it was, you let them alone with them?
Oh, sure. That's
yeah.
the time I dropped them off behind Parham's.
Oh, that wasn't in the hotel, though?
No way.
Oh, nothing?
Nobody ever came into the hotel.
Uh-huh.
Ever.
Uh-huh.
No. That was a no-no.
Now, speaking of Rocky, I remember you said there was an experience of, you know, since there was like all kinds of girls hanging around that, you know, he had no business being there. He just showed up looking to get lucky, or do you know?
No. Rock came up to make sure everything was going good because,
Yeah.
you know, it means a lot to Miami Beach.
Yeah.
And everything went so smooth and they had a great time, you know.
Yeah.
And one night, though, it was funny, there was a from the BBC called up and they wanted permission to come up, and I said to George, you know these guys? And they said, yeah, they filmed us on a train from New York to Washington.
Right.
And it's for England. And he says, we'd like to see it. And I said, sure, come on up. So Paul and George, you know, and John came with Cynthia and these guys, and they set it up on a screen, and it showed you the train ride,
Uh-huh.
you know, and they were carrying on with the people, and it was like a regular movie. I think it was strictly for BBC, though.
Uh-huh.
And
No, but Rocky didn't do any of what I just said?
No.
I thought you told me that story.
no, sir. You never heard that from me.
I didn't make it up.
Yeah.
But,
No, sir. Only thing, he came up to see that everything was no funny business in
in the hotel.
the hotel.
What about, when did the trip to the Fifth Street gym take place?
See, Barry, I can't tell you exact dates.
But it was after Sullivan and all during
Yeah,
this whole
we
time.
went down, or it could have been before Sullivan. We went down and Muhammad Ali was there, Cassius Clay,
Uh-huh.
and they were kidding around in the ring, and I was, you know, with Dundee and left them alone, and they had a good time down there, and then we got back in the car, and
Did they want autographs of Cassius Clay?
they were joking around more. Well, he was all gloved.
Right.
He was sparring,
Right.
you know, and but I guess we spent about a half hour there.
Yeah.
And then we got in the car, then when it started getting crowded, I says, we got to get out of here.
Yeah.
You see, once you start losing control, you're in trouble.
So it was pretty uneventful except for the photographer shoot there.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
No, they had a lot of fun with him, and they had a lot of fun with Rickles,
Yeah.
and they thought he was hysterical. Because I told them as we were walking
Did you guys
in,
meet with Rickles afterwards? Or?
Rickles came over
Yeah.
and shook their hand, and then he said, ladies and gentlemen, you know, I was kidding.
Yeah.
They're the hottest act in the country today,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. And but I told him going in, I said, no, this man's humor, he'll tear you apart.
Yeah.
I said, don't answer him, and that's his wit. He means no harm,
Yeah.
and he depicts one, the biggest from the presidents down. It makes no difference,
Yeah.
but don't get in a dialogue.
So I also wanted to find out, what did they ever do with the MG that they bought?
They left it. They picked it up. They didn't buy it. The MGs gave it to them.
Oh, to use.
They wanted
I see.
George to buy one because and use it or whatever because he loved the MG.
Oh.
It was a hell of a sports car, you know.
What kind of payroll problems did you have?
Well, no, what it was, every night I would go down and I would say to them at the hotel, I have 36 for 36 men, 5 hours,
Yeah.
6 hours, whatever. And I'd sign, they never questioned it.
Uh-huh.
And then they would make a check. I would endorse it, and they would give me the cash, and then I would give it to the sergeants and so forth, and they would pay all the men. You know, and I got at the end. All of us got the same, $3 an hour.
Wow. What else was I going to ask you? The okay, I'm just reading here. You wrote "Get out of show business." So Ringo afraid of the pool, oil for all, burning up by the sun, JB and Coke, Marlboros.
Yeah,
Where-
well,
where
he
did you
was
sh-
afraid of the water.
Yeah.
He wasn't that active in the pool.
Yeah.
He would always stay toward the side in the shallow.
So how?
You know another thing I
Yeah.
believe, Barry? I believe he had a premature gray eyebrow. Brow.
Uh-huh.
I think it's the left. And he had to touch it up because it would stand out.
Oh, really?
And also he had a scar all the way down like I did. He had a lot of stomach trouble.
Oh, really?
And they operated him when he was a kid.
Uh-huh.
And he couldn't handle spicy foods or anything.
Where did George's sister fit into any of this? When did she arrive?
She came after they left.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she got in touch with me, and I forget. She came. I forget where I met her. I don't.
And
I
what
don't
happened?
remember. Nothing. We talked and like that. I just don't remember her too much.
George just told her to look you up when she got to Miami
Well,
Beach?
she somebody called her and said, you know, and he talked to her on the phone. I think she lived up in Pittsburgh. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Uh-huh.
And she called, and I called her, and I said, "Have you ever come down here?" And she came to the house. I think she came to the house. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I think someone brought her to the house.
Okay, so
I can't. You know, I'm going back a long time.
sure. Now about the final days and their departure.
Well, yeah, the days we get all the stuff together, and they got all dressed, and I hugged Cynthia and gave her a kiss, and she kissed me. Said thank you so much, you know.
Yeah.
And John hugged me and shook hands, and I said, I hope you enjoyed your stay. He says, thank you so much. You're a gentleman. And Paul and Ringo and George and I, you know, we kind of were close. And I said, keep in touch. I said, whatever can help you. And
Did they invite you to England?
no, I told him, you know, my father was born in England.
Yeah.
But we got him downstairs. We got him in the elevator, and then the place emptied out. Then I go on the read that somebody in New York ripped the sheets off the bed and cut them up and sold them
Little squares.
square.
Yeah.
You know, but I didn't want no part of those sheets.
So how much correspondence did we have once they left? I remember there were some letters.
I got a letter from Paul, and I got a letter from Brian Somerville, and I got a letter from George. Nothing from Ringo or John.
And they
I
just
didn't
sent,
expect.
and Paul just sent the one shirt and
Sent a couple shirts, and or George sent the shirts. I forget. I forget the shirts.
yeah.
And the funny there was one incident that I can't remember. I wanted to tell you. Darn, you know, so many things. There's water under the bridge, but they were in Jacksonville.
On the way afterwards.
The second tour.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And WQAM, I think it was,
Right.
called me up and said, we want you to escort the plane to Jacksonville. The boys will be very anxious to see you. I said, that would mean taking off a night's work and this and that. And I said, I'll tell you what I'll do with you. I think it was one of the disc jockeys.
Right.
Now, meanwhile, I don't know this, but they had identification tags already printed up with my name on it. and notified all the kids that won a contest that I was going to be the.
Right.
I didn't know this. And I said to them, I'll tell you what I'll do. You let me take my kids, and I'll go. And I'll take them in, and I'll see the boys and whatever you want me to do. But I don't want no money.
Right.
Just my kids. Oh, we can't do that. I says, well, then you're going to have a nice flight. They put a guy on the plane and put my name on him.
And this person was supposed to go in and see them? And
No. All he was is because they already told the parents.
that
Because
they're
I
taking
know
their-
people told me.
Yeah.
They said, how'd you like your trip to Jacksonville? I said, that wasn't me. And I forget at the time, Jerry wasn't an attorney, and I got pissed. I really told Rick Shaw, I
Yeah.
says, I didn't appreciate what went down,
Yeah.
and I don't want to make a big issue over it.
Right.
But anything that would have happened there, people were going to say, hey,
You were there.
Sergeant Dresner was in charge and this and that. So they said, well, it was the last minute and we didn't think you'd turn us down and then, I says, okay. I said, but it better not ever happen again,
Yeah.
And then I got those tapes where they said goodbye, they recorded.
That was their only entree to even talk to them.
Yeah.
Was to mention your name.
Yeah.
Because they were
Yeah.
by this time they were amazing
Yeah.
stars.
Yeah. This recording was saying goodbye to Miami Beach.
No, they were in Philadelphia. They were being interviewed in Philadelphia.
No, I don't know. You
And
got
this
the-
guy was from Miami Beach, going, "Hey, you remember Buddy Dresner?" Oh yeah, that was their only entree
Yeah,
was to talk about you.
that may be. You got
Yeah.
the tape. I sent
Yeah,
it.
sure. So
And that was it. And now they came down here, and I don't know what happened. I just couldn't reach them, but they did go to the Keys,
who was they
the Beatles.
during the second tour or when?
I believe so.
Yeah.
But I don't know. They bypassed Miami, I think,
Uh-huh.
and they went to the Keys, and then they went somewhere else.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I never, came in contact with them.
Yeah. So
But that was it.
can you think of anything else that we haven't spoke about yet? Or?
Yeah, I wish I had like 10%. What can I tell you?
Yeah.
No, that's about it. It was a lot of fun. It was, see, now from that experience,
Mhm.
that was the first, quote, rock group,
Yeah.
unquote, Miami Beach ever had. So then from there, I became like the expert.
Right. So what was the next assignment?
I don't, we
the
took
Beach
care-
Boys or the
We
Monkees?
took, the Beach Boys were first, and Hermits, and Dave
Clark 5,
Clark 5,
the Monkees.
and Monkeys. See, now that's where Rocky came up, and we were all concerned because there were little girls that ran out of Jacksonville. They came from the Jacksonville to here,
And this was during the Monkees?
and the Monkeys
Yeah.
brought them along.
Uh-huh.
And I told the manager, I said, anything happens, I'm telling you now, I'm unhappy with this.
Right.
I'm unhappy. See little girls in there.
Yeah.
And he says, don't worry, it goes anywhere. And I said, well, any lawsuits come out, I'm telling you now. I'm telling you, get them out of the room.
Right.
So,
And something did come up.
oh,
Somebody
yeah.
tried to blame you for
Oh
stuff.
yeah, oh yeah. Rocky called me up. He says there's a girl pregnant, and the father said it was a gray sergeant. I said, well, I'm a gray sergeant, and I was there, but it wasn't me. And I explained to him.
Yeah.
I said, you tell the father you got a lawsuit. I'll go for him
Yeah.
because I warned them all.
Yeah.
But that was the greatest con in the world. That was the greatest. They were up there mouthing, and they had screens all over.
Oh, the Monkees.
And the
Yeah.
pictures were flashing, and the kids were looking and screaming, and they weren't playing.
Was that the concert that we went to as a family? And I sat backstage and
I don't know.
no, I think it was the Beach. But there was one concert where afterwards, all the kids stormed the stage.
There was one there where mother, and then one guy says, "You remind me of my mother." He kissed her.
Oh, that was the
Beach
guy
Boys.
in the Beach Boys.
Yeah, that was the Beach Boys. Now the Monkees were were pretty funny kids. You know.
Oh, that's right. I never saw the Monkees. I met the Beach Boys.
Mike, was the oldest one, he was way out. He went out to Coconut Grove and he came back.
Of the Monkees?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's a he's a very
Nesbitt?
he's a very successful
Not Nesbitt,
producer.
there was another guy.
Well, it was Mickey Dolenz as the surfer.
Mickey was a drummer, wasn't he?
Yeah.
No, he was all right.
And then there was Davey, the little Brit.
No.
And there was Peter Tork. No, so you're thinking Mike Nesmith. Naismith.
Or Peter Tork. Was he the...
Blonde.
He was the guy who got into poetry and...
I don't know about
Indian...
Well, all those people were doing it. The Beatles were as well by that time.
I went into his room and I took one look on his night table and I saw the pills. I said, oh my God, let me get out of here.
So what was the longest amount of time you spent with any other group?
Maybe a day.
And these were just concerts.
Beach
these weren't
Boys,
shows.
I arranged for Beach Boys to go scuba diving. They never scuba dive.
Uh-huh.
So I took, one of the policemen had a boat, Fred Pinder took him out.
The Beach Boys never went scuba diving.
No.
That's
No.
interesting. Yeah.
Did you believe that?
Yeah.
Never scuba
Well,
diving.
it's so much better here than in California.
I didn't say surfing, but scuba.
No, scuba.
So they went out and they didn't come back till late and the manager screaming. And, he says, what happened? I says, they're all right.
Yeah.
And they came up and they were sunburned and they had a marvelous time, you know. And
any particular memories of Herman's Hermits?
no, it was like overnight. They come in and they went.
You know, because remember David Cruzel told a story of how he ran into the lead, Peter Noon, and mentioned your name, and like he had all like the fondest stories and memories.
Yeah, but
of
you
you.
see, I don't remember. I really just don't remember.
Yeah.
I took care of them. We took them out to boat rides, or we took them like Bob Dylan. You know, he was like a weirdo.
Well, you took care of him as well.
Yeah. But when I say took care of him, pick him up at the hotel, bring him to the show, took him back.
Yeah.
And.
But never really had conversations with these other artists.
No. Oh well, I would with like Herman's Hermits or Beach Boys. We joked around.
Yeah.
And this one kid, you know, I told you, I said to him, sign this for my boys.
Yeah.
And he says, you know, I'm not a Beach Boy. My name's Glenn Campbell.
Yeah.
And I said to him, you're just as good. You know, just sign it.
That's true. Did we sell? I think we sold that photo. Didn't we?
No.
That would be interesting because his name is on that photograph. All right.
And the strangest, besides Bob Dylan, he never bathed.
Uh-huh.
James Brown, I was supposed to take care of James Brown, and I didn't do it. Then they called me up from New York, this manager.
Michael Jackson.
Yeah, he's bringing in a group called the Jackson 5. And I said, he says, well, they got their own security from L.A. I said, no. I said, who will be in charge? And he says, well, they listen to the guy from L.A. I says, well, then that's the guy you hire. I can't do that.
Yeah.
I said, I got 5 of them, plus the mother and the father, and
Yeah.
And I said, who are they? You know.
I love what you said.
Well, think about it.
So, how much time did you spend with Elvis Presley?
72 straight hours.
Yeah.
Very nice. Guy, we had great talks.
And so you stayed at the hotel with him?
Yeah. It was weird. It was me and Cal Schuler were in one room in the middle with a table with phones.
Uh-huh.
2 phones. Presley and his group were up here. Parker, I told you, that bastard, over here. Phone will ring. Pick it up. It's Colonel Parker. Tell Joe, or whatever, have him ready at, not Elvis. Tell him to have him ready at Rubber. Then I pick up the phone. Is it Joe? Yeah. Colonel said to have Mr. Presley. Yeah. I'm just telling you.
And Joe is their guy.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
Joe, he met Joe, was from Tennessee, and they were in the Army together.
Yeah.
He was like the key guy.
Yeah.
And then there was like 5 or 6 that he met in the Army and from hometown. And I told you, they all wore those square aluminum
Right.
sunglasses with holes in them with blue lenses.
Yeah, so this is like 1970 by
Yeah.
now.
So, he was trim.
Yeah.
Thin. And then we had a roped off quadrant and he'd drink a Coke when he came off the stage.
Yeah.
And
How many nights did he perform?
one,
One night.
see, he looked when he, at the edge of the stage, and you know how he danced around?
Yeah.
And when the lights would flash, he would see the silver. And he knew he was secured. He had a little paranoia.
Ah, I see.
So they were all around. They were all around.
Oh, so he was getting clues of some sort?
Well, he was knowing that his men are there.
I see.
Nobody would bother him. And then at the end, they'd all escort. And this Parker, he was so funny. He walked through it. He said, "How many men you got?" I said, "We're going to use 20. 20? I want 200. I said, "There's not 200 in Dade County." "What are you talking about?" You know. I started laughing. He says, "You're handling the biggest act in the world." Bean. And I said, "Listen to me. Took care of the Beatles. We used about 25, 30 men, and they were in and out. This is Presley." I said, "There ain't nothing going to happen to him. So stay out of my way, Colonel, or get a new man." So he turned to Cal Schuler. See, I was lieutenant, Schuler was major. He says, "Major, you were," he says, "I work for him. If he goes, I go."
Yeah.
You know, so but you see, they never talked. Never met, never talked. Presley and
the
Parker,
Colonel, yeah.
never.
So you have a certain amount of, you're curious about this relationship.
Very.
Yeah.
Because he left right after the show, the next day on a private plane with the money.
Yeah.
We all got paid a week later from some outfit out of Seattle.
Uh-huh.
The auditorium wasn't paid. They didn't have enough money, but they got paid. It was strange. It was
Yeah.
very, very strange. But Presley sat outside the room on the table, and out come a big push cart,
Yeah.
you know, with all kind of drinks and whiskey and everything else. He says, "How about for you and the men?" And we never drink on the job. So he had the White Rock ginger ale,
Uh-huh.
which I brought home in the bottle, and he signed it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I never saw that.
Yeah, it was home somewhere.
So what did we ever do with that, do you
I
remember?
have no idea.
White Rock Ginger Ale.
Yeah.
So what kind of conversations when you were alone with him would you
Well,
have?
you know, as you know, I told him, I said, saw some of your, you know, the movies. I
Right.
said, he says, you know, all he did was shake his head. I says, "How do they do that?" I says, "You say 4 words and then you sing. Say 4 words and then you sing." He says, "Well, Mr. Wallace, that's what he said, Mr.
Ah.
Wallace." He says, they wanted to make it as fast as they could. I
Yeah.
never said that Parker made him do it.
Right.
He never said nothing like that.
Any inclination that he was doing drugs at the time?
No, I would swear that man was as steady as a rock. He was clear. He wasn't fat. I mean, he was in good shape, you know. And something must have happened. See, this is what amazes me. Here you got a multi-million-dollar
Act.
property,
Yeah.
right? You're the manager, and he's the manager for life. He gets a piece of everything that goes through that cemetery.
Right.
Parker. He got everything. And what always amazed me, if I got this be like Sonny Liston. Not Sonny Liston, Tyson.
Right.
I own Tyson. I'm his manager. Do you think for 1 minute I would have him in a limousine with a broad without a bodyguard with him? No matter what he say. He ain't doing nothing wrong, you know, as long as I got the contract.
Yeah.
Well, wouldn't you think something like that would happen with Presley, where this Parker would say, "I want to know everything." He goes, "I want to know what doctors, I want to know this, I want to know this."
Yeah.
You know, couldn't care less. Apparently. Don't you think?
Maybe.
I mean, shit, the guy's on all kind of pills and blowing up like a balloon, and you let him do this?
So any other?
Don't make sense.
Oh, did you tell me you took the Beatles to see his movie?
Yeah, well, you know, I mentioned that I took care of the Beatles, and I swear I took them to a drive-in to see one of your movies. I said, but I I couldn't picture. All I knew was you were singing.
Right.
And he started laughing. I said, of course, you're singing in every movie.
So I mean, he wasn't like impressed that you
No,
took the
you know,
Beatles to see that
no,
his
he,
movie.
but he said they're very good. You know,
Yeah.
he liked them. He said we're very quiet, very soft spoken.
Yeah.
And then we spoke for. Somebody brought up a Bible, some young girl,
Yeah.
and gave it to him. So, and I was working for Jerry Kudrisky, who's a
Right.
devout Catholic. So I said, write in there to Jerry and sign it, would you please?